Everyone to today's webcast. My name is Mark and I'm with Sage. I'll be taking you through a short presentation today titled How to Get ERP Functionality at an Out-of-the-Box Price. What I'd like to show you is how Sage 50 Quantum can meet your needs if you are presently using an ERP level system or enterprise level system and you're considering migrating down to a smaller integrated out-of-the-box system like Sage 50 Quantum. I think you'll be very surprised and pleased at the robust functionality that our Sage 50 Quantum product provides at a very reasonable price, certainly much lower than what you are currently paying for an ERP level system. So what I'm going to do now is just flip over to the actual Sage 50 Quantum accounting product, which is what you see here on my screen. And you'll notice that the Sage 50 Quantum screen is laid out in a very straightforward and organized fashion. We have arranged all of the different functional areas that you normally would purchase in an ERP system as individual modules over here on the left-hand side of the screen on this panel that we call the navigation panel. Each of these tabs represents one of those functional areas that typically in a larger system would be a separate module, but in Sage 50 Quantum, all of these are integrated, since this is an out-of-the-box system, into the one piece of software. And you have the various functions that you see listed here, and as I click on those individual tabs, you'll notice that the right-hand side of the screen changes, but it changes within the same general format, which is by design. We've worked hard here to make the system as user-friendly and easy to learn as possible, so that to the extent that you understand how one section of the product works, you basically understand how all of them operate because they're all laid out in the same general fashion. For example, I have clicked on the Customers and Sales tab here, and if we move just a little bit to the right, you'll notice that we have this navigation area that looks like a flow chart, which is made up of these boxes, some of which are connected by lines. And when you click on the boxes, you're presented with a series of menu choices, each of which will take you to a specific screen in the program, which in this case is the sales invoice screen. Now, the lines on the diagram in between the boxes just represent the relationship between the different functions shown on the diagram. However, that in no way means that you have to use every function that is shown on the screen here. There are many companies, for example, that do not use time and expense tickets or may not use quotes and proposals or sales orders, and that's perfectly okay. You can click on whatever it is that you do need and go directly there without a problem. The navigation diagram is really just a visual representation for you as to how the different individual functions are interrelated within the system. And as I mentioned earlier, the various different functional areas all share the same navigation interface. So you'll notice as I click on these tabs once again that from one section to another, the configuration of the navigation diagram changes a bit, but the basic idea is exactly the same. You click on the boxes, you're presented with a list of menu choices, and you select whatever it is there that you want to move to. So that's the basic way in which you move around within the Sage 50 product. Very straightforward, very easy. What I'd like to do today is give you an overview of three basic main areas. One will be the multi-user management and security. The second area I will cover is job and project management. And the third and final area is the reporting and business intelligence capability of Sage 50. I think you'll be very pleased and surprised, frankly, with the degree of robust functionality that Sage 50 Quantum offers in each of these areas. It's really more comparable, quite frankly, to an ERP level system. By the way, Sage does sell, in case you're not aware, several different ERP level systems. So I'm familiar with the typical layout of such a system and its capabilities. And while, yes, that system is very robust, as you certainly know, it's also costly. And many companies are looking to reduce their cost of ownership, their total cost of ownership, and go with an integrated out-of-the-box solution, but they don't want to sacrifice too much functionality. And I think you'll find that with Sage 50 Quantum, you don't need to do that. You can move down in a bit in functionality without sacrificing critical needs that you have, and you can at the same time save a great deal of money. So I'd like to start off with a poll question, and I'm just wondering why you are currently, the folks that are attending today, why you're currently looking to migrate from your current ERP level solution. And I'm going to launch this poll, and you can see that I've got a few choices here, and you can click any or all of these choices that you see on the screen, and I'll show the results in just a few seconds here. I find that many people that are currently using an enterprise level system or an ERP system are looking for mainly the reasons that you see listed here on the screen to migrate to a smaller system. And I will often find that more than one of these reasons is the catalyst for that desire to move. And I just want to get a general idea of the folks that are attending today, what those reasons are. Looks like everyone is looking to reduce their cost of maintenance fees, and about 50% of you are saying that ERP is now too robust for your needs, or your business has changed. Again, all of these are reasons that I commonly hear. I'm going to close that poll now, and so you can see my main screen here again on the Sage 50 Quantum product, and show you a little bit of functionality with regard to multi-user management and security. Now, this is an area that you typically have a good deal of flexibility and detail with in an ERP level system. And typically in an integrated system, you either don't have security settings at all, or if you do, they are very limited. That's not the case with Sage 50 Quantum. If we go into the security area of the program, you'll notice that when you set up a new user in the system, this is the setup screen for a brand new user in Sage 50. You have available to you these 7 broad functional areas, but within each one of these functional areas, you have quite a few individual task areas to which you can give varying levels of access to any user that you set up. Anything from full access to no access, and in many cases, you can give intermediate levels of access, such as view only, add, or edit. You also, with Sage 50 Quantum, have the ability to buy as few as 3 users, or you can move up from a 5-user system to a 5-user system, or from there you can go up in blocks of 5-user increments all the way to a maximum of 40 users. So you can accommodate quite a few named users in the system, and all of those up to 40 users can be in the system working simultaneously. The database that Sage 50 Quantum utilizes as the engine in the background is Pervasive SQL. It is an ODBC compliant database, so if you have an ODBC compliant query tool. You can interface with that database, and really gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to giving access to or restricting access to particular functions in the program to specific users. Because if you were to add up all these individual task areas across each one of these functional areas, you'll find that there are approximately 100 specific task areas. So while you don't get down to the field level security complexity that you may have with some ERP systems, you've got a pretty granular system here where you can restrict access to sections of the program on a pretty detailed and refined basis without just, for example, I've seen in some out-of-the-box systems you may have 6 or 10 different areas that you can turn on or off for a particular user. You've got much more flexibility than that with Sage 50 Quantum, and as you can see here, that will give you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you set up your users and what you allow them to do in the system. Now, another nice feature that we have in Sage 50 Quantum is this concept of role-based security. And roles are, in case you're not familiar with this concept, roles are predefined sets of user access rights that you define, and you can name anything you like. What you see here on my screen is a list of examples of sample roles that we include in the sample company. But these are just examples because these roles are user-defined by you. So you can use any of these sample roles, you can edit them, you can delete them entirely and create your own roles from scratch. But each one of these roles, which you name, is a predetermined, pre-configured set of access rights. And when you add a new user to the system, rather than having, especially if you have a large number of users that you're adding, rather than having to go through every one of those 100 different task areas and specify what level of access you want to give that person, which of course can become very time-consuming if you have many users, you can simply come in here after you set up a role, and let's say that new user happens to be an accounts receivable manager. You just assign them the role of AR manager, and you're done. You only have to set that role up once, and then any person that has the rights that go with that role can simply be assigned that role. By the way, you can assign a user multiple roles if you so choose, which is appropriate in certain cases, and that's also supported as well. So you can see that you've got quite a good security access feature built into Sage 50 Quantum that gives you a lot of ability to specify in a very detailed fashion what certain users can and cannot see. Now, what will happen when you restrict user access to a certain area of the program, depending on if you restrict an entire section or just certain specific features, either these tabs will not appear on the screen of the user that logs in who has been restricted, for example, completely from inventory. They won't have this inventory tab even displayed on their screen. However, if you give them access to inventory, but let's say you don't want them to be able to do inventory adjustments, for example, that icon will just be grayed out. They can click on it, but nothing will happen. So the system, that runs, by the way, those security settings through every facet of the system. So that includes the dashboard. And this is a general overview of your entire company, which potentially you can display many different types of information on this dashboard panel for easy access. And you can see here, this is the setup customization window for the dashboard. There is quite a long list here of 46 different items, each of which is essentially a miniature report showing you everything from vendor information to employee and customer information, inventory item info, revenues, expenses, credit memos, job costing information, and so forth. All of this information is also linked to the security settings. So to the extent that you restrict someone, for example, from seeing customer information, they won't be able to choose any of these panels or see any of these panels that are related to customer information on their dashboard when they log in. However, one thing that can be done is that gives each user some flexibility with the way that they set up their dashboard. They can, each user, subject of course to their access rights, can set up multiple tabs on the dashboard screen with specific panels on each tab. So obviously people that are in different roles in the organization are going to find various panels more important than others to them, and they may want to create more than one tab depending on what they happen to be doing that day or that time of the month, and have different tabs on each, or I'm sorry, different panels on each one of those tabs. This is an example that I've created here in the sample company of 3 tabs with my name on them, labeled Tab A, Tab B, and Tab C. And each of these 3 tabs displays different panels. And I've customized each one by just clicking on the Customize button and selecting from that list of panels I showed you a moment ago. To add a new tab, you just click on Add New Tab, and you can name that tab anything you like and select from any of these available items. And again, these are going to be restricted based on what the access rights are that you give that person. And then they have those tabs on their dashboard when they log in, and those custom tabs are only visible to the user that creates them. So again, you've got that functionality, that security that runs throughout the entire program. Second area I want to cover is job and project management. This is another area that many people are concerned about who are using an enterprise or an ERP level system and are doing job costing, because typically with an integrated system or an out-of-the-box system, you don't have a lot of detail in the job costing functionality if job costing is included at all. And in Sage 50 Quantum, we have not only included job costing functionality, but there is a surprising level of detail available in that functional area. So what I'd like to do here is show you a few of the features of the job costing function in Sage 50 Quantum. If we click on this jobs icon, actually, let me back up a moment here and point out to you that on the left-hand side of the screen, on the navigation panel in Sage 50 Quantum, we have a dedicated Jobs tab. And this is specifically for people that are doing a good amount of job costing and want to be able to access all of the job costing related functions on one page. This is exactly what this dedicated Jobs tab does for you. You can see that you have a variety of different functions that are related to job costing, all shown on this one page. And in the other versions of Sage 50, the non-quantum versions, these functions are scattered throughout the system on various different areas. So you've got to click between several different tabs to access all these features. In Quantum, however, while those features, those icons are also located in their original locations as they are in the other versions, you, in addition, have this dedicated Jobs tab, which simplifies the whole process because you can just click here and get access to everything in one place. In addition to that, you have this Job Management tab, which is essentially a dashboard specifically for job-related information. So based on the jobs that you create in the system, you can select any of those jobs from a drop-down list here. And when you do that, you get a series of panels showing you a series of reports, essentially, about that job. You have, for example, in this instance, job-to-date profitability. You have sales invoices that have been assigned to this particular job. And by the way, you can select from any of these different time periods. I'm just using this quarter as an example. You have payments that have been applied to this job, to expenses related to this job. You can drill down on any of these line items, by the way. For example, here's a receipt of inventory. And you can see the detail on those transaction screens. This job-specific dashboard, which we call the Job Management tab, can also be customized by clicking on the Customize button. And again, you can choose from any of these items that you see listed here. And you can see over here on the right, I've selected 6 of these items, but any or all of these could be selected and placed in any order that you choose. If you want to, on any of these dashboards, move around the order of the panels, you just move the name of that panel up or down in the list, and that will change the order of the panels on the dashboard tab. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out with job management. You've got a lot of information at your fingertips readily available, but getting a little deeper into the functionality, if we pull up a job, an example job, which is what you see here, this chapel job, like any record in Sage 50, a job record conforms to the same general format that every record does in the system. We've tried to make the system as consistent as possible in its layout and its conventions so that, again, to the extent that you understand what a job record looks like, you understand what a customer record looks like, what an inventory item record looks like, an employee record, and so forth. They all follow the same basic format, which is that in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you have an ID field, which can be up to 20 alphanumeric characters in length, and then that field identifies that particular record in the system. Below that, you have another field labeled either name or description, which identifies, just gives a longer description that will appear in lists of those particular records, and that field can be up to 39 characters in length. Below that, you have a series of tabs that contain information related to that particular record type. So since we're talking about a job here, you have on the General tab information about this particular job record, including the supervisor that's been assigned to this job. Some of these fields are optional, by the way. The customer for whom you are doing that job. And you can see here, you can select from your entire list of customers that you've set up, the job address, the job type, which is a user-defined field. You could create 50 or 100 different types of jobs if you wanted to, and sort and categorize and filter your reports by those types. You also have a field where you can select the billing method. You can either set a job for no progress billing, which means that you're just billing via individual invoices, or let me just close out of this screen and go to the new job screen, which is blank, and show you that you also have the option to bill as a % of the contract, % of completion, or % of proposal. So again, you've got functionality here that typically doesn't exist in an out-of-the-box integrated system. In addition to the progress billing feature, you have a labor burden field, which will allow you to enter a percentage which will be applied to any labor costs that you charge or assign to that job. Now that labor burden percent, by definition, is an estimate of your labor burden. It's not applying specific expenses related to your employees to that job, but it is giving an estimate. For example, on the chapel job that I just had open, you see here that in this labor burden percentage field, I can type in, for example, 28%. And that will just add another 28% to whatever the labor cost is that I've assigned to that particular job. Whenever I assigned individual employees hours to that job. Moving on to the estimated expenses and revenue tab, this is really the heart of the job costing feature, in the sense that on this screen you can choose to break the job down into phases and cost codes. Now in Sage 50, phases and cost codes, well, phases are subdivisions of the job itself, and cost codes are subdivisions of the phases. Now these are user-defined categories again. Just as I mentioned earlier, the job type is a user-defined category. What I mean by that is before you even set up your first job, you set up a master list of phases and cost codes, which can be named anything you like, and you can have as many of each of these as you want to create. When you set up a new job in the system, you specify which phases and which cost codes, if any, you want to use to break that job down into detailed individual sections. If you choose to use phases and cost codes, once you set up or select the specific divisions you want to use, you enter expenses, estimated expenses, and estimated revenues for each of those phases and cost codes. And that's what you see in this table here. This becomes effectively your budget for the job. And then when you apply expenses or incur expenses or recognize revenue that's related to that job, you can generate reports that compare those actual expenses and revenues to what your estimates are here. And down below, you have an estimate history, and you'll notice we have this little link that says view change orders for this job. If I click on that, you'll see that we have 2 change orders entered into the sample company for this particular job. This is another feature that is unusual for an integrated out-of-the-box system. You can enter change orders on a job, as many as you like, and each of those change orders will be assigned a sequential change order number in the system for that particular job. You can enter a note as to what that change consists of, and then you have an approval line at the bottom where you can indicate the person that approved that change, whether it's been applied to the transaction or not by clicking this box. And you can also print that change order out and give that to the customer. And if you have that, those are options that you can do where as you get those cost codes, or I'm sorry, those change orders entered into the system, each of them can be invoiced to the customer as well, and then you can get an updated total contract amount that you can show in the statement as well. So again, functionality that's typically not included in an integrated system, but it is present here in Sage 50 Quantum and allows you to get very detailed with your job costing. I'm going to click out of the job costing area for a moment here and get into the reporting and business intelligence area of Sage 50. Now, in order to go into the reporting area of the system, what we'll do is click on this Reports and Forms menu option at the top of the screen, and this takes us into the reporting area in Sage 50 Quantum. Now, the nice thing about, one of many nice things about the reports in Sage 50 Quantum is that you have approximately 140 standard reports and financial statements included in the product right out of the box. So all of those reports are grouped into these categories that you see listed on the left-hand side of the screen where I'm clicking with my mouse. And you'll notice that within each of these categories is a list of fields, a list of reports, standard reports of that type. So these are all your standard general ledger reports, all your standard financial statements, payroll reports, accounts payable reports, accounts receivable reports, and every single one of these reports can be modified or customized to your specific needs very easily right on the screen, as a matter of fact. In order to illustrate this, what I'm going to do here is just pull up the standard aged receivables report, which is what you see on your screen. And this is the standard format for that report that you will see if you pull it up right after you install the program. You'll notice that right on the screen, I'm dragging and adjusting the column widths on this report. You also, by the way, anytime you see your mouse pointer change to a magnifying glass, that indicates that you can double-click on that line item to pull up the detail that it represents, which in this case is an unpaid sales invoice. You also have these two buttons at the top of the screen labeled Options and Columns, which give you additional flexibility in terms of customizing that report. If you click on the Options button, that gives you access to this window, and you'll notice that depending on the specific report you're viewing, you will have various different time periods and date ranges that you can run that report for. You will also have, again, depending on the specific report you're viewing, a list of fields on which you can sort and or summarize that report. And you also have a box labeled Select a Filter that contains a list of fields on which you can filter the information in that report, meaning that you can restrict the information to certain specific selected items. For example, let's say that you want to run an aged receivables report, but you don't want to see every single customer in your list. You just want certain selected customers to appear on that report. Well, that's very easy to accomplish. All you need to do is click on the Options button, open this window. In the Select a Filter box, you select the particular field on which you want to filter the report, which in this case would be the customer ID field. And then over here on the right, you have your entire list of customers displayed. And by scrolling down in this list and checking in the little check boxes next to the customer names that you want to include on the report, you can limit that report to those selected customers. And once I do this and I click OK, you'll see that this report has been restricted to those customers that I just selected. Now, you also can very easily add additional fields or columns to any report, and you do that by clicking on the Columns button up top here. When you do that, you get access to this window. And if you look in this table within the window, under the column heading here, you'll notice that there are several field names which already have check marks to the left-hand side under the Show column. And these are the fields that are displayed on the standard version of the report up top here. However, if you scroll down in this table, you'll notice that there is a quite large number, actually, of additional fields that you can add to this report simply by clicking in these checkboxes to select the fields that you'd like to add. When you do that, the field is highlighted in blue, and it can then be moved up or down in the table to rearrange the order of the columns on the report. So you can rearrange these fields in any order that you choose. When you click OK, those fields will be added to the report, as you see here. And any report or financial statement in Sage 50 can be exported into Microsoft Excel very easily just by clicking on this Excel button, which will launch your Microsoft Excel application and export that information, including any formulas that are necessary, into an Excel workbook so that you can do whatever type of data analysis you'd like to do or in Microsoft Excel very quickly and easily. This is what you're looking at here, by the way, is Microsoft Excel 2010, but the system will interface with Office 2003 or newer. You've also got a PDF file button here at the top of the report screen, which will create a PDF file copy of that report. You have an email button, which will launch your default email program, which in my case is Microsoft Outlook, and it will create an email message with a copy of that report attached as a PDF file, which is what you see here. Now, if I double-click on this attachment, you'll see that this is the report that we were just viewing in the form of a PDF attachment. Now, at this point, all you would need to do is enter the email address or multiple email addresses to which you want to send this, and you can also add or modify the information in the body of the message and then just send it along. It makes that process very quick and painless. Now, coming back to the report screen, once you have modified that report format and you're satisfied with the layout, you can simply click on the Save button, give that modified version of the report a name and a description, and then from that point forward, that modified version of the report is going to appear under the name that you gave it in the main report list, which is exactly what you see here. This is a custom report that I created a few days ago, and you can tell that that is in fact a custom report not only by the name that I gave it, but also because it has this little blue wrench icon next to the report title, which indicates that that is a customized report. All your standard report formats just have this blank page icon next to them. Now, you can create as many different custom versions of any of these reports and financial statements as you want to create, and you can add or delete those at will. You do not have to worry about accidentally deleting any of the standard report formats because the system will not allow you to do that. But it does give you a tremendous degree of flexibility with regard to customizing the reporting specifically to your needs. Now, I mentioned business intelligence, and this is, to me, this is one of the most exciting features of Sage 50 Quantum because, you know, you talk about an integrated system versus an enterprise or ERP level system, and one of the things that is typically a very big difference between those two types of systems is the level of reporting detail that you have. Typically with an ERP system, you're going to have a very high level of reporting detail as opposed to a pretty limited degree of report functionality with an integrated out-of-the-box system. Now, this business intelligence tool really takes the reporting to a whole new level with regard to an integrated out-of-the-box system. I'm not aware, quite honestly, of any product in this price range, anywhere near this price range of Sage 50 Quantum, that has reporting functionality that even approaches this business intelligence tool. And let me show you what I mean by that. What this is essentially a custom reporting tool that is integrated with Sage 50 Quantum and comes with the system at no additional cost. It essentially allows you to run reports, custom reports, that are in the form of Excel, Microsoft Excel workbooks. So the end result is literally an Excel workbook. And I'm going to run this dashboard analysis report, which is one of the standard reports that you get with the system, just to give you an example of the types of things that you can do with this tool. It's asking for some parameters here, and I'm just entering the date range and the particular budget that I want to see on this report. When I click OK, you'll notice that you'll see a series of windows. This is just showing you it's extracting the information from the Sage 50 database and exporting that information into a predefined template in Microsoft Excel. And you'll see that in just a second here. This is the end result. And you can see you're literally looking at Microsoft Excel 2010. Now, again, you can use this with Excel 2003 or newer, but obviously the most robust functionality exists in the current version of Excel, which is 2010. You can see with this report that we've combined some very different types of information on one report. We have profit and loss information, top 5 expenses, top 5 and bottom 5 items that we've sold over this particular time period by percentage and dollar amounts. We also have 3 charts and graphs displayed here, each of which are being driven by a pivot table in Excel. The beauty of this tool is that, assuming you know how to use Microsoft Excel, which most people do, even on a pretty high level, functional standpoint, you can modify any of these reports that are generated by the Business Intelligence tool right here in Excel, adding columns, deleting columns, adding additional worksheets, even modifying charts and graphs using the pivot tables that exist in the workbook. And you can save those changes back to the Business Intelligence tool under a different name, just as you would with a standard Sage 50 report, as I was showing you earlier. But in this case, when you do that, that Business Intelligence report will show up again under the custom name that you decided to assign it in this list. And the next time you go to run that report, all you do is click on it and the entire process is automated, which means that any changes that you made, any modifications you made to that final report are incorporated and remembered in that template. And then when you run that report with live data the next time, it will incorporate and remember all of your modifications. So you only have to do that process once. And as you certainly know, if you routinely are exporting report data into Excel and reformatting it or manipulating it to come up with specific report formats, that can be really time-consuming depending on how often you do it. And this tool can save you a tremendous amount of time by automating that entire process. And again, this is exclusive to Sage 50 Quantum. This tool is not available in any other product in this price range. And so this is something that really distinguishes Sage 50 Quantum from its competition in terms of reporting sophistication. I'd also like to just quickly mention there are some industry-specific features that are built into Sage 50 Quantum. If you look at the next step down from Quantum, which is Sage 50 Premium, we have a Sage 50 Premium version for nonprofit organizations, for construction enterprises, and also for manufacturing and distribution companies. And each of those, what we call vertical products or vertical versions of the premium product, have specific additional features in them, all of which are incorporated into the quantum level of the product. So for example, if I go into the inventory area of the program, in the inventory setup, on the inventory setup screen, I should say, there are some options in Quantum that you would normally only get in the distribution and manufacturing version of the premium level of Sage 50. One of those is this quantity discount field. And this discount field allows you to create a discount schedule, quantity discount schedule, that contains up to 5 quantity breakpoints, at which point, the customer will have either a percentage discount or a dollar discount amount assigned when they buy that many of that particular item. Now, you can set up as many of these quantity discounts as you need, and you can assign those discounts to any or all of the 10 different selling price levels that you set up for a particular inventory item, which is another nice feature that typically doesn't exist in a integrated out-of-the-box system. You have up to 10 different price levels which you can specify for any inventory item, and then you can assign a default price level to a particular customer so that when you create a sales invoice for that customer, the price that is pulled onto the invoice by default is the price level that you've set for that customer. Now, that's just a default setting that we provide for your convenience. You can always override that on the actual invoice with whatever price you choose, but you do have that, functionality there for your convenience. In addition, in the inventory area, you have a choice of different costing methods for calculating cost of goods sold. Typically, in an integrated system and an out-of-the-box system, you will generally have only average costing. Sometimes they'll include first in, first out. Here you've got a choice of first in, first out, last in, first out, average costing, and even specific unit costing, which applies only to serialized inventory, that being inventory items that have a serial number associated with them, which is another type of inventory that you can track in Sage 50 Quantum. If you set up a serialized stock item, you can assign as many serial numbers to those individual items as you would like, and you can even track warranties on those items. So you've got some really nice features in the inventory area. With regard to construction, I already went over the job costing area and the fact that you can enter change orders for jobs and break those jobs down into phases and cost codes, as many as you need to track those jobs. You, in addition, have a job status field that is a manually assigned field. You can create as many user-defined statuses as you need, and this will allow you to track your jobs in great detail, especially for a system in this price range, which is an out-of-the-box system. With regard to nonprofit organizations, there are, when you set up a new company in Sage 50, I'm going to select the new company option here, and you'll notice that one of the first things that you're presented with when you go to set up a new company in the system is, and I'm just going to type in a name here for this company so that I can get to the method screen, select a method to create your company. If you choose to use a sample business type or a sample chart of accounts, which is what most people do if they don't have an existing chart of accounts already, the nonprofit options are present in Quantum as well. So you have these additional types of nonprofit organizations which have charts of accounts associated with them, including the standard United Way-based chart of accounts that the United Way specifies. And there's also a standard nonprofit chart of accounts called the Unified Chart of Accounts that we include for your use as well. If you have an existing chart of accounts, of course, this will, and you're already using an ERP system, that's not going to be a factor generally. You'll just be importing your existing chart of accounts. But in addition to that feature with nonprofits, if you're setting up additional companies, you've got those nonprofit-specific charts of accounts, along with the ability to segment your chart of accounts or your general ledger account IDs into up to 5 segments. And each of those segments can designate a department, a cost center, a funding source if you happen to be a nonprofit a nonprofit organization. And those segments in the General Ledger Account ID can be used to create customized financial statements for your specific needs. And the options there are virtually endless, especially with the business intelligence tool. The last thing I'd like to mention is just that on the dashboard you have a feature that we call Order Process Workflow, which enables you to create and assign as many user-defined tracking statuses to a particular transaction in Sage 50 Quantum as you want to create. This is an example. These are 5 statuses that I created in the sample company specifically for sales invoices. And you can assign any of these statuses to this particular invoice. And if I go into the setup screen for this function, you'll notice in this window that I've selected sales invoicing over here on the left, but on the right I have displayed the 5 different statuses that I created for sales invoices. Now I could have created 10 or 15 or 20 different statuses, and I could have named these statuses anything I like. The salient point here is that this function is transaction type specific, meaning that if I click on sales orders, for example, I have a completely different set of 6 statuses for sales orders. If I click on purchase orders, I have a different set of 3 statuses for those, and so on with the different types of transactions listed here. You can set this up in whatever way makes sense for your business and then assign any of those statuses that you define to any particular transaction. You can assign specific users that you've set up in Sage 50 to a particular transaction and have that transaction brought to that user's attention when they log into the system. And you also have a notes field into which you can place as many notes of up to 2,000 characters each as you wish. So you have the ability to have very extensive notes listed on the transaction itself, and you also have a history tab here which logs every note that's entered, which is time and date stamped, along with the name of the user that entered that information. And it includes not only the notes, but also any time that the transaction status is changed and any time that the person to whom the transaction is assigned is changed. Then when any of your users log into Sage 50 Quantum, they can click on this dashboard tab, look at the inbox panel, select any time period that they want to view, and they're presented with a table showing every transaction that has been assigned to them over that time period and what the specific status of each of those transactions is. If they want to see the detail of any of these transaction screens, they just click on the detail link and it takes them directly there. Keep in mind this is not just for sales invoices. This works for purchase orders, for quotations, for credit memos, for payments, really any type of transaction in the system. So in closing, I'd just like to reiterate the fact that we offer quite a lot of functionality for the price in our Sage 50 Quantum product. We encourage you to consider it if you're looking to reduce your total cost of ownership and you happen to be using a larger accounting system. And if I flip back over to this screen here, we've got an 800 number that I encourage you to call if you'd like to get more information. When you call this number, you'll be connected with one of our Sage account managers who will get some information from you that's relevant to your situation and can set you up with a one-on-one demo with me in which we can spend a full hour addressing your specific concerns. So I'd like to encourage you to do that if you'd like to find out more about our product. I want to thank everyone for attending today, and you know, we encourage you to call, and we can't wait to tell you more about the product. So Thank you, and have a great afternoon.